Back to last Saturday's verdict that saw ousted President Hosni Mubarak get a life sentence, but 2 of his sons and 6 key security officials walk away scot-free. Others looking ahead, as you can see, the square there had been filling up nicely this evening in Cairo. They're looking ahead to Egypt's first ever presidential runoff. They're against the candidacy of Mubarak's last premier, Ahmed Shafiq, making it past the post despite a rule barring officials from the old regime. Supporters of Shafiq's second-round rival, the Muslim Brotherhood's Mohamed Morsi, are in the square, but Egypt's oldest opposition party is of 2 minds when it comes to how the second-round runoff should play out. With voting already underway for Egyptians abroad, it's anyone's guess at this point when the decision on Shafiq will be handed down. Which brings up an elemental point in all of this. Mubarak-era appointments are still the ones responsible for both his legal case and for the final say on the elections. This leaves Egyptians torn between an old guard that's not yet gone, a Muslim Brotherhood that already controls parliament, and fragmented activists who reject both. Today in the France 24 debate, we're looking at the specter of Mubarak's shadow on Egypt's elections. And we hope to be joined soon by Yahya Hamed, spokesperson for the Muslim Brotherhood candidate Mohamed Morsi. With us here in our Paris studios is Alia El-Mahdi, professor of economics at the University of Cairo, who's here as a visiting professor on behalf of the University of Chicago. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much.
Also with us, January 25th activist Dalia Hassan, who's been living in France for the past 9 years. Thank you for being with us. And Claude Guibert, senior correspondent for Radio France, and who was a longtime reporter based in Cairo, author of, I should mention it, in French, Tahir's Egypt, Anatomy of a Revolution. Thank you for being with us. The France 24 debate, where you can always weigh in on the conversation on Facebook and on Twitter. You can find us at François F24. Now, let's start here with this demonstration that's taking place in Cairo. In your view, Dalia Hassan, the demonstration in Cairo is the first aim to protest Hosni Mubarak's the verdict in the Hosni Mubarak trial, or is the first aim to protest against the candidacy of Ahmed Shafiq?
Well, it started, of course, by refusing the verdict in the Mubarak's case, and most of the little groups that formed, and then we've seen the huge crowds that gathered on all the Tahrir squares of all the cities, started because of the families of the martyrs present there, who felt this as a terrible coup, or like a great insatisfaction and deception to see that Mubarak had only this 25 years judgment, and all the other acquitted and just leaving free from this terrible case of murdering the protesters. But it started with this first.
That was last Saturday.
Yes.
And now?
And today it became more relative to this candidacy problem with Ahmed Shafiq, and also against Morsi, because people really are starting to realize that they have been fooled, and that all the organization of the elections had many violations. They have been witnessing many violations in many cases and in many cities, and I think they started to realize that it was a big mistake to accept to do these elections under the authority of the SCAF.
The Muslim Brotherhood, which is taking part in this demonstration this Tuesday, is that a good thing?
They are taking part, but as usual, you know, the Muslim Brotherhood has this history, and it has been proved. I mean, throughout all the 20th century, they have always been in confrontation with the regimes. And the problem is they are doing again and again the same mistake. I mean, they have always been making an alliance with the regime, then they are getting used by the regime and thrown away, either rolled over by the regime. It happened with King Farouk, it happened with Nasser and Sadat and Mubarak, and right now they are just going back to the streets, but they are not usually staying at night, and they are always withdrawing from the protests and from the sit-ins. So they have this schizophrenic relation to the revolution and to the protest.
Do you agree with that, Ali Ahmadi?
Yes.
there is a schizophrenic relationship?
Yes, I guess so. I agree with Dalia. I guess the Muslim Brothers are in the Tahrir Square with two hearts. One heart says we have to be there. So in any case, we want to be in the square, so no one would accuse us for leaving the square. The other heart is with Morsi and supporting the elections. So you don't know exactly what is going on here.
But let me play devil's advocate here.
Yes, please.
Obviously, we're hoping to get Yahya Hamed, who seems to be victim of Cairo traffic, to join us. But a lot of Egyptians, they talk about a silent majority that wants things to get back to normal.
Yeah.
The fact that the Muslim Brotherhood goes, demonstrates, then goes home, isn't that a sign of sort of perhaps a reassuring sign to a lot of Egyptians?
It's not that reassuring. Actually, you don't know where they really stand. Do they stand for the revolution and for all what the revolutionaries are saying in the Tahrir Square, or do they prefer to be with their man Morsi, supporting him for the elections? So actually, it's very ambiguous what they are, representing. To me, it's not clear. I would like also to say that in this demonstration, what we're seeing here also, it's not only demonstrating against the verdict or against Shafiq Morsi candidacy, but again, there is a renewal of the demand of a presidential council. So people are talking about it right now. This is being spurred by the 2 or 3 candidates who lost.
All right, let's pick up on that point right now. Just a reminder for our viewers how the voting went in the first round. It was Mohamed Morsi and Ahmed Shafiq who made the cut with some 11 million votes. Between the two of them, but the next 2 candidates not so far off. On 9 million votes, Nasseris Hamdin Sabahi and moderate Islamist Abdel Monem Foutou, who both went down to Tahrir Square Monday evening.
Without implementing the isolation law, there will be no runoff.
Down with army rule.
Claude Guibal, you were there for the first round. First of all, let me ask you about the result that came out of the ballot box. Was that a surprise to you?
Well, actually, it was no surprise to see Mohamed Morsi out of this first round. What is interesting is actually that there is a third group in Egypt, as you just said, that almost 40%, more than 40% of the Egyptian has voted for someone who is not Muslim brother or not from the army. And that's the interesting thing. The sad thing is that the Egyptian who hosted Hosni Mubarak a year and a half ago, who toppled him in order to get rid of what they call the nizam, the system, are actually facing a very tough choice because the system is still here. The system was based on 2 pillars, on 2 oppositions. I mean, the regime, the army, and the Muslim Brotherhood, which was the main opposition. And now that's what they have to choose, and it's just that the same situation.
The fact that you see in those images, those 2 main candidates, the ones who are 3rd and 4th in the polls speaking, is that the start of something?
It could be the start of something.
They don't come from the same political family.
They don't come from the same political background, but they fought together on Tahrir Square for a year and a half. Still, a year and a half after, they knew that they had to manage to gather, to federate, to find someone to embody their expectation, and there's no one. So they haven't learned the lesson from the revolution. So that's the problem Egypt is facing, the fact that Egypt cannot unite when it has to face the system.
And again, the way it was described here at the top by Dalia Hassan, Egypt's, ever since it all began back on January 25th, 2011, So people go to Tahrir Square in this instance for one thing, and it sort of morphs into something else. It really seems unscripted.
Well, it's very complicated. Why, at the beginning, why people went on Tahrir Square a year and a half ago? They were just asking for some change. They were just the less they were expecting was, the dismissal of the Minister of Interior. That's what the biggest expectation was there. No one could believe that 18 days later, Hosni Mubarak would leave the power. But people were asking for a better life. People were asking for a decent housing, decent education system, free judiciary system. Well, they were asking for citizenship. And a year and a half after, they're facing this problem that they're going to elect a president without knowing what this president will be allowed to do, because there is no constitution, and citizenship is based on the constitutional. So that's the first problem. They're going to vote for two representatives of the former system. They're not voting for men. Nobody cares about Morsi or Shafiq. Mohamed Morsi is a second-hand choice. The Brotherhood has first chosen someone else. And what Morsi says is, you're not going to vote for me, you're going to vote for a program, you're going to vote for a group, the Brotherhood. And it's the same thing for Shafiq. So we are just, Egyptian people are just facing what they were asking to get rid of a year and a half ago, you see, and that the problem of that they are facing now.
Now, when will we know if Shafiq can stand? Well, the chair of the Electoral Commission, Farouk Sultan, grew tired of being asked that very question on the day he announced the first round results, so much so that he walked out of the press conference. Sultan, who, by the way, also chairs the country's highest court. It's a bit of an odd system in that respect, Ali Al-Mahdi.
Yes, it is. It is. He's chairing the two, the highest court and the election committee, presidential committee, and this is.
At first, they said it was going to be that it would be on June 10th, this week. Then they said June 11th, and now there's no date at all given.
What I heard is that it will be announced on June 12th, and I guess we have to wait and see what will come on June 12th. Why? Because if the verdict is that the isolation law is unconstitutional, then Shafiq will run, and that's it. But the verdict, or they would come up with a decision that we will not look into the law because it did not come from the right source, which is the Presidential Election Committee. So in this case, it will be postponed, and that's another problem. In the third situation, they would say this is a constitutional law, and therefore Shafiq will leave. So you have so many options. I guess we will have to wait until the 12th of June, because then it will be clear to us, because we might end up with a situation where Shafiq will have to go, leave the scene, and then the question would be, shall we repeat the elections again, or will Hamdan enter? I don't know.
All right, well, let's go to Cairo now and join Yahya Hamed. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. First of all, let me ask you the question point blank. Should Hosni Mubarak's last prime minister, former General Ahmed Shafiq, be allowed to stand in the second round?
So let me first thank you for hosting me today in your respectable program. And we are, as Muslim Brotherhood and as FJP party, as well as the campaign for Dr. Morsi, we support the political isolation of Mr. Shafiq. The parliament in general has submitted the initial legislation against or to support the isolation of the figures of the old regime, those who have worked as prime ministers or in the parliament in the legislative committee that was headed by Gamal Mubarak. So all those figures, we said that they need to be ousted from the political scene. Unfortunately, the High Committee Council of Election said that it's not the right time right now to let Mr. Shafiq goes out. That's why we are in a political case right now. So after our meeting yesterday with Dr. Abu Futuh and Hamdeen, we said that we support this political isolation, and we accept as well the consequences of this political isolation, which might help to the repetition of round one again with the 12 candidates after the ousting of Mr. Shafiq.
So let me get that straight. So what you're saying is that if his candidacy is struck down, you're in favor of redoing the first round?
No, it's not our favor. It is the law that if he is ousted, we have to repeat the whole round again. So there were two ideas on the table, and we asked our legal consultants, and they said that legally, if he's ousted, all the 12 candidates should go into a repetition again. So it's not our favor. So as a viewer, you might see that it's in favor of Dr. Morsi to have the round two with Mr. Shafiq, because Mr. Shafiq is a representation of the old regime with all its atrocity and all the grassrooted system that really made a lot of harm into the Egyptian people. But we are in favor for the general and Egyptians' welfare, and that's why we are supporting the political isolation of Mr. Shafiq.
And I believe that Hamdeen Sabahi and Abdelmonem Foutou, those two candidates who finished third and fourth, went a step further, saying that therefore some kind of collegial presidency. What do you think of that concept?
We have submitted a proposal once the first round poll was submitted or was announced that we were on rank one. We said that we are in favor for what we call the presidential institution. So we are after institutionalization of the presidential figure and all. We have been brought up in Egypt that we always see that the president is the one who can take the decisions alone and so on. So we are anti this, and we said that it is a full team that consists of vice presidents, that consists of consultants and counselors, as well as assistants of the president. And we went for Mr. Hamdeen and Dr. Abu Futuh because we respect all the voters who gave them their votes. We are speaking about 4.2 for Mr. Hamdeen, around 3.2 for Dr. Abu Futuh. So those 7.4 million we really respect, and we offer Dr. Abu Futuh and Mr. Hamdeen to be vice presidents for Dr. Morsi, and then they had another view that we want to go into another round with the legal system, and we have our disagreements about the results of the first round. So yesterday's we had two ideas thrown on the table while discussing with them whether we go into the coalition presidential team, and we think that it's not constitutional as well as it's not practical, especially that since last Sunday, the day before yesterday, already the election of the second round has already begun outside Egypt for our Egyptian people living abroad. So we don't think it's practical. We didn't close the door of negotiation with them. And today we have agreed into 4 or 5 things that we need to make sure that all the people cheering
let me just interrupt you there.
Are calling for.
Let me just interrupt you there, Yahya Hamed, because we're going to have to take a quick break. We'll come back and pick up on those points here in the France 24 debate.